Hello everyone, today we're going to talk about something few people are willing to sit with. The silence that follows when you've prayed and nothing happens. Right now, maybe you're walking through a dry, dusty season. Your prayers echo like whispers in an empty room. You keep checking your phone, hoping for that job offer, the text back, the news to shift. But all you get is silence. God didn't promise life would be easy, but He did promise that if you trust Him, He'll walk beside you through the storm, through the silence, through the weight. So before you settle in, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really appreciate what I do here. And tell me, where are you watching from, and what time is it where you are? Take a deep breath, roll your shoulders, and let your body relax. You can play soft meditation music or rain sounds, like the quiet rhythm of time passing. Now, let's hear the story the day wants to tell. You remember that time you felt God's presence so clearly, don't you? The warmth in your chest, the stillness in your mind. But now, it's like He's gone quiet, and you wonder, did I do something wrong? Did I miss a sign? Did I imagine it all? Noah waited 120 years for the rain to come, and during that wait, people laughed, mocked, called him crazy. But he kept building. Imagine the silence between hammer strikes, the space between faith and fulfillment. One night, staring at the ceiling, you whisper, "God, are you still there?" And no thunder answers, just the ticking clock. But maybe that silence isn't absence. Maybe it's presence, one that teaches you to listen deeper. A woman once waited 10 years to conceive. She thought God had forgotten her. Then, on a random Tuesday, it happened. Not because she tried harder, not because she proved herself, but because God moves in perfect timing. You're not forgotten. Psalm 27, verse 14 says, "Wait for the Lord, be strong, and let your heart take courage. Wait for the Lord." But waiting isn't weakness. It's warfare. It's a sacred stance of defiance against doubt. So here's the question. If God's not talking, are you still listening? You've knocked, haven't you? Politely at first, then desperately. Fist against wood, voice cracking, and still nothing. The door remains shut, the opportunity withheld, the yes postponed. It's exhausting, especially when everyone around you seems to walk through their doors effortlessly. New jobs, engagements, babies, promotions. They step forward while you stay stuck at the threshold. You begin to doubt, not just the process, but yourself. Maybe you're not good enough. Maybe you missed your moment. Maybe God's favor skipped your name. But sometimes the door stays closed because God is fortifying what's on the other side. Remember that one job interview where you gave it everything but never heard back? You cried in your car afterward. But had you taken it, you would have missed the detour that led to the calling you now love. God isn't cruel. He's calculated. You see delay. He sees protection. You see denial. He sees redirection. And what if God is not just preparing the blessing for you, but preparing you for the blessing? You dreamt of leading, but you had to learn how to serve. You prayed for a platform, but you had to develop a voice that speaks life, not just noise. An ancient door in Jerusalem bears an inscription worn by centuries. "Wait here, for this is holy ground." Every unopened door you stand before, maybe it's holy too. Have you considered that the door isn't locked, but timed? Isaiah chapter 22, verse 22 says, "When he opens, no one can shut. When he shuts, no one can open." So what do you do when the door won't budge? You keep showing up to prayer, to worship, to a quiet room where no one knows what you're waiting for. And sometimes you wonder if you look ridiculous, waiting for God to move while everything around you screams, "Give up." But faith has never looked logical. Abraham was promised to be the father of many nations, yet decades passed before Sarah bore a child. To others, it looked like denial. To God, it was delay for greater glory. People think you're naive. Why are you still praying, they ask. Move on. But you know something they don't. Faith isn't built on evidence, it's built on trust. Peter stepped out of a boat into a storm. It was irrational, dangerous. Yet that step gave him a story still being told centuries later.
You once turned down a relationship that everyone said was perfect, but something in your spirit said not yet. You stayed single, lonely even, but months later, that person walked away from God, and you realized obedience saved you from heartache. Sometimes, faith looks like starting a ministry in your garage. Sometimes it looks like giving when you don't have enough, or forgiving someone who never said sorry. Faith isn't showy, it's stubborn. It's building an ark under a clear sky. It's sowing seeds with no rain in sight. What if God's plan for you involves looking foolish for a season in order to show His power through you? Remember the woman who broke an expensive jar of perfume at Jesus' feet? People called it wasteful, but Jesus called it beautiful. So if you're looking foolish right now for believing, you're in good company. God uses the foolish things to shame the wise. There comes a point in your waiting where you stop counting the days. You stop trying to predict God's timing. The wall calendar blurs. The prayer list feels repetitive. And then silence becomes familiar, even sacred. And that's when it happens. Not with fireworks, not with angels, but in the ordinary. A random message, a friend's invitation, a shift in your heart. David was just delivering bread to his brothers when he met Goliath. He wasn't trying to be a hero, he was just showing up. But that moment shifted his entire future. Likewise, you were just helping at a church event, or talking to a stranger at a coffee shop. Then, something clicked. A door opened, a path cleared. But here's the truth. God had been moving all along. You just couldn't see it. Every seed you planted in tears was growing roots underground. You realize, it wasn't just your circumstances that needed to change, it was you. You're softer now, more patient, more grateful. You don't rush into things. You listen. You pray differently. You worship, even when it still hurts. And that's the miracle. Not that God moved, but that you were transformed in the waiting. James chapter 1, verse 4 says, "Let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing." You asked for a change, but God gave you character. You asked for a blessing, but God made you a blessing. And now, even if nothing else comes, you know this wait, this long, painful, sacred wait, has not been in vain. Then the answer arrives, but it's not what you expected. You thought it would be a loud, triumphant yes. Instead, it's a gentle nudge, a small opening, a different path. You prayed for healing, but God gave you peace. You asked for the relationship back, but God taught you to love yourself in Him. You wanted a platform, but God handed you a quiet purpose that feeds your soul. The gift doesn't always look like what you envisioned. It looks like what you need. A man once asked God to remove his anxiety. Instead, God taught him to breathe, to rest, to walk with him through the fear. And that in itself became healing. And you? You learn to trust God's character more than his timing. Philippians chapter 4, verse 19 says, "My God will supply all your needs according to his riches in glory in Christ Jesus." The answer comes, not to validate your prayers, but to reflect who you've become through them. You see, God was never just writing your story. He was shaping your soul. And now you can look back and say, every moment was worth it. You're still here, and that means something. You didn't give up, even when your faith looked foolish, even when the wait was long, even when the answer was different than what you hoped. And maybe that was the point. The world rushes. God whispers, "Be still." And in that stillness, you found peace, not in the outcome, but in Him. You see now, faith isn't about control. It's about trusting the one who never fails. Your journey isn't perfect. It's sacred, laced with tears and hope and holy pauses. Every prayer, He heard it. Every silence, He shared it. And every breaking point, He stood with you in it. So let go of the urgency. Let go of the need to understand everything. Just rest and know that God is still working. Grace isn't a one-time gift. It's an endless supply, available every time you return to Him. So breathe deep, smile gently, and stay soft. Stay strong. Stay surrendered. Shh. Do you hear that? It's the sound of hope still whispering. You worship in the hallway.